Friends, you are listening the part 2 of the Revolution Untold Story of Indian Freedom Struggle episode on Hyder Ali.
Welcome to the Revolution Untold Story of Indian Freedom Struggle. I am Shushmita Mazumdar, your host.
And I am Kaushik Mazumdar, your co-host. By the end of 1740s, the French and the British colonial companies started taking more active participation in the local conflicts. The Third Carnatic War had gained the British somewhat solid footholds at Bombay, Madras and Calcutta.
Not only they proved their martial superiority over the Indian prince towns, but they also marginalized the influence of other colonial powers.
Madras was one of the most important and earliest possessions of the British East India Company in India. Just to refresh your memory, Captain Robert Clive, who had brought the end to the rule of sovereign Nawabs of Bengal, was himself summoned from Madras to Calcutta after Siraj's attack on Fort William. Despite being prized possession, Madras was far from a source of comfort for them yet.
The eastern holdings at Madras were surrounded by the territory ruled by the Nawab of Carnatic, Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja. The other major powers in the east were the Nizam of Hyderabad and the Sultanate of Mysore, ruled by the Udayyar dynasty.
Mysore occupied the high plains between the eastern and western Ghats, the mountain ranges separating the coastal plains of India from the interior.
Because of its strategic positioning, Mysore posed a great threat to the Marathas. The Nawab of each of these states were in the procedure of consolidation and expansion of its territorial boundary. In this procedure, the emergence of Mysore was naturally viewed with great alarm, especially since 1761, after the control of Mysore went into the hands of Hyder Ali. Though the Nizam was equally apprehensive of the Maratha expansion in the south and uprising of Mysore, he allied with the Marathas.
Also, he cooperated with the British against Mysore as well as against the Marathas. The mutual dissension and enmity amongst the local powerhouses ultimately helped the British to intervene effectively in their internal polity.
After establishing their martial as well as administrative supremacy in the East, it was high time for the English East India Company to choose whether to restrict them, to pull the strings of the native government, or take on the governance on their own.
As mentioned in a letter by Clive,
the time now approaches when we may be able to determine whether our remaining as merchants, subject to the jurisdiction, encroachments, and insults of the country government, or the supporting your privileges and possessions by the sword, are likely to prove more beneficial to the company.
In other words, whether the company should openly take up an attitude of independent authority.
Their choice was probably obvious, as may be inferred from an extract from the concluding pages of Dow's History of Hindustan, written in 1770, to show how accurately the possibilities of expansion had been calculated by cool and intelligent observers.
Thus we have in a few words endeavored to give a general idea of the present state of Hindustan. It is apparent, from what has been said, that these immense regions might all be reduced by a handful of regular troops. 10,000 European infantry, together with the sepoys in the company's service, are not only sufficient to conquer all India but, with proper policy, to maintain it for ages as an appendage to the British Crown. This position may at first sight appear a paradox to people unacquainted with the genius and disposition of the inhabitants of Hindustan, but to those who have considered both with attention, the thing seems not only practicable but easy.
Though the invitation for alliance from the battling states led the company an easy entrance to the British, but their intervention in Mysore and the Maratha states primarily had a commercial interest.
The sudden growth in the company's cotton trade with China from Gujarat through Bombay motivated the British authorities to play a more domineering role in Western India. British authorities wanted to remove the chance of any possible intervention of the Marathas from the way of their lucrative trade.
In addition to the fact that Mysore was already a threat to the British control in Madras, their strong influence on Malabar coast were perceived by the company as a threat to the British trade in pepper and cardamom. Moreover, the French alliance with the British under both Hyder Ali and his son Tipu's rule were seen as a threat to the British dominance in this region.
From the ranks of an ordinary soldier, Hyder Ali eventually rose to become the de facto ruler of the kingdom of Mysore. His contribution during the siege of Devanhali in 1749 earned him an independent control from the Raja of Mysore.
Throughout the Carnatic Wars, while the Nawab of Arcot, Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, allied with the British, Hyder Ali and his Mysore battalions served alongside the French commanders.
After studying the military tactics of the Frenchman Joseph Francois Dupleix, he induced his older brother, a brigade commander in the Mysore army, to obtain military equipment from the Bombay government and to enroll 30 European sailors as gunners.
Thus was formed by the first Indian controlled corps of Sipahis armed with firelocks and bayonets and backed by artillery served by Europeans.
In 1755, Hyder was appointed Faujdar of Dindigul. In this position, he first retained French advisors to organize and train his artillery companies. No wonder he is accredited as being the first Indian to have formed a corps of armed Sipahis backed by an artillery base comprising European soldiers.
In 1758, he was rewarded with the Jagir regional governorship of Bangalore by Devaraja in appreciation of his role in the campaigns against the Nayars of Malabar. The very same year, Hyder Ali successfully forced the Marathas to lift a siege of Bangalore. This would find him at enmity with Marathas who had distinctive emotional patronage towards Bangalore because of the same being the birthplace of Chhatrapati Shivaji.
These early wars would result in mistrust and enmity amongst Hyder and Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, the Marathas as well as the English company.
Over the next few years, Hyder Ali not only concentrated on the expansion of his territories, but also focused on improving the economy of Mysore.
These were the days of training for Tipu under the learned tutors to become the administrator and the warrior he became.
During this period, two the key acquisitions of Hyder Ali included Sira from the Marathas and the kingdom of Bednor. In 1763, he took Ikiri, the capital of Bednor. The acquisition of Bednor included several ports on the Malabar coast, including Mangalore.
Hyder Ali used these ports to establish a small navy. Portuguese records indicate that the fleet was launched sometime between 1763 and 1765.
This might come as a surprise that this fleet was run by Europeans and its first admiral was none other than an Englishman.
In 1768, Hyder Ali, out of mistrust towards the European, chose Lutf Ali Beg as the new admiral instead.
By 1763, following the conclusion of the Third Carnatic War, the British East India Company, especially the Madras Presidency, had two major concerns. On one hand, they wanted to make sure no local power should form an alliance with the French, as well as to establish an overland connection between its holdings at Madras and Bengal.
Unrestricted access to the northern Sircars, a series of coastal territories, was the key to achieve the goal they had set.
Accordingly, they had applied to the Nizam for the northern Sircars, but the Nizam rejected their offers.
Around this time, Nizam himself, battling against the Marathas, had to make overtures to the company for assistance.
Though the company yet not managed to get the nod from Nizam, they managed to enter in an agreement of lending army to the Nizam in return of financial arrangements for the troops.
At this juncture, the company received letters from Hyder Ali proposing an alliance including the Nizam against the Marathas. Though the Nizam did not act fast on such an idea of the confederacy, eventually the alliance never worked out.
And Hyder Ali is found to be blaming Muhammad Ali Khan Walaja, the Nawab of Arcot, and old ally of the British and enemy of Mysore.
Eventually, Nizam got into an alliance with Peshwa Madhav Rao against common enemy Janoji Bhonsle. In the meantime, in the aftermath of the Battle of Buxar, Lord Clive successfully pursued Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II for the northern Sircars, who in August 1765 issued a decree granting the company rights to that territory. They knew this would displease their ally Nizam, who was yet occupied battling Janoji Bhonsle. So, they chose to wait for the right time to break the news accordingly.
In 1766, after defeating Janoji Bhonsle, the Nizam was planning to invade Mysore with the existing alliance of Peshwa Madhava Rao.
Madras government took their opportunity to get the sanad of the emperor to Nizam about transferring the rights of northern Sircars in return of martial commitment.
Nizam not only protested against such settlement, rather he was on the verge of declaring war against the British. But the long battle against the Marathas left him financially too weak to go into another war, that too against the British.
Around this time, while due to the differences of the Marathas, the existing ally of the Nizam and the British, the new alliance was still in doubt. Madras presidency was under constant threat from probable Carnatic invasion of Hyder Ali.
Accordingly, they extended the proposal of an alliance towards Hyder Ali also, only to be denied though.
In this dilemma, Lord Clive recommended for persuasion of Nizam, which should have for its object subjugation of Hyder Ali, as well as this alliance would restrain the spreading power of Marathas. Even the court of directors of the company had differences with Clive about the alliance, which is evident from the following counter. Comments were court of directors of the company doubts.
The growing greatness of Hyder Ali was but a weak pretense for a junction with the Suba. The Marathas, instead of being reduced, are like to be aggrandized by this conquest of the Mysore dominions.
In response, Clive replies,
Whatever power may be added to the Marathas by lessening that of Hyder Ali may be recovered hereafter by an alliance with the Suba of Deccan.
History approves that eventually Clive's instinct proved to be true.
Eventually, on 12th November 1766, a treaty was executed between the Nizam and company representatives General Collude and General Smith.
As per the treaty, company got the right to rule the 5 northern Sircar states for 9 lakh per annum, and in return, the company would also keep as many soldiers as required by the Nizam at his disposal. Not only would the number of soldiers the Nizam have complete freedom of deploying them against any enemy of his choice at any time.
Beyond individual objectives, this treaty was signed by both sides in common hostility towards Hyder Ali. Soon enough, the tables turned when Hyder again proposed for an alliance in late 1766, only to be rejected, because the local company council viewed it as incompatible with the treaty signed with the Nizam.